There are few betrayals more disorienting than the betrayal that comes cloaked in familiarity. Imagine waking to find that the very roof over your head, the structure you trusted to shield you, had been sheltering a serpent. Not one in the wild, not one in the stranger, but one nestled among the known, the beloved. You trusted, you shared, you wept on the same shoulders, unaware that venom was coiled beneath the fabric of relationship. And now it's been revealed, this speech is for you, the one who's been wondering why pain came not from your enemies, but from your kin. Stay with me, because what feels like devastation is actually a divine revelation. And if God is exposing something, it means he is also elevating someone. The serpent never announces himself at the door. He slithers in through affection, disguises himself in shared memories, and weaves lies into the language of loyalty. It was so in Eden, it is so in your family. Not every enemy wears armor, some wear your last name, but take heart, what hides from men does not hide from God. He sees through every disguise, and in his time he brings the hidden into the light, not to destroy you, but to deliver you. The chosen are often crushed before they are crowned. Joseph's story was not derailed by his brother's betrayal. It was activated by it. The pit did not cancel his promise. It transported him toward it. If you are chosen, understand, the serpent's bite was permitted not to end you, but to awaken you. Pain is often God's loudest whisper to call you higher. It will hurt. It will feel like everything secure has crumbled. But what you are losing is not family. What you are losing is the illusion that the serpent was a sibling. God removes deception not to reduce your world, but to cleanse your path. What he exposes, he intends to exercise, so that your house may no longer be divided. You don't need to scream your side. You don't need to win the argument. Heaven has already spoken. God does not simply expose serpents. He also elevates the wounded. The truth will not only come out, it will come with power. Let God write your vindication in stone. You write it only in prayer. You will be tempted to camp in the betrayal, to make an altar out of ashes. Don't. Pain is not your identity. It is your passage. Even Christ had to be betrayed to complete his mission. Your betrayal is a holy rupture, tearing you away from false coverings to press you closer to your divine calling. The serpent was not exposed to break your heart. It was exposed to break the spell. You were loyal to dysfunction. You were faithful to falsehoods. You were trying to be whole with people who thrived on your fragmentation. Now you're free. The exposure is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of your authority. There is a peculiar kind of pain that strikes deeper than all others, the kind that comes not from the obvious enemy, but from the one who shares your blood, your home, your history. It is a sorrow not easily articulated, for it wraps itself in confusion, disbelief, and a near-sacred grief. We brace ourselves for battle against the world, yet often leave our hearts unguarded within the walls of our own family, assuming love will be the unbreakable bond. But what happens when the serpent chooses to nest in that very sanctuary? Evil rarely announces itself with a roar. More often it whispers. More often still, it whispers through familiar voices. The danger we prepare for is often distant. Cynical bosses, unfair systems, the corruption of the world. But the serpent is subtle, and he prefers to operate through the least suspected medium, the people we trust. He seeks intimacy, because betrayal without intimacy is powerless. The deeper the bond, the deeper the wound. To be wounded by a stranger is to be assaulted, but to be wounded by family is to be undone. It is not merely a strike against your person. It is a violation of your soul's memory, a defiling of shared laughter, childhood secrets, late night prayers, holidays, hospital rooms, weddings, and funerals. It is the treachery of someone who knows your vulnerabilities not by spying, but by being welcomed into your heart. The serpent that hides in your family does not always wear evil on its face. Sometimes it speaks your language. It shares your table. It calls you by a nickname only your kin would know. And because it comes clothed in the fabric of familiarity, you lower your guard. You let it near your dreams, your plans, your fears. And then one day, whether through revelation, confession, or divine exposure, you see its fangs. This is a revelation that cracks the very frame of your world. You do not simply lose trust, you lose the narrative. You begin to question every memory, you retrace every conversation, you ask yourself what you missed and how long it's been happening. You wonder if your love was wasted or worse, if it was manipulated. But herein lies a divine paradox. The serpent's presence does not mean your family is cursed. It means your life is consecrated. God does not expose the serpent in just anyone's house. He reveals it in the life of the one who is being prepared for something greater. He allows this unveiling not to shame you, but to awaken you, to show you that what once seemed like unity was really a fragile piece built on silence, compromise, or ignorance. There is a sacred violence to truth. It tears, it offends, it disrupts, but it also heals. It restores what is real. When God exposes the serpent in your family, it is not the end of affection, but the beginning of clarity. It is not a declaration of doom, but a call to discernment. You may ask, why would God let it go on for so long? Why allow you to be vulnerable only to reveal danger later? But God, in his wisdom, permits the serpent to remain hidden only long enough to serve his purpose. Perhaps you needed to grow in strength before seeing the truth. Perhaps the exposure was timed not for your comfort, but for your calling. Make no mistake, this is not a casual unveiling. This is spiritual surgery. It will separate soul from spirit, joint from marrow. It will hurt. It will cost relationships. It may isolate you, but it will also purify you, and in time you will see that the exposure was not cruelty, it was protection. God did not show you the serpent to harden your heart, but to prepare your spirit. So what do you do now? You resist the urge to retaliate. You give the pain its space without letting it rewrite your identity. You weep, yes, but not as those without hope. You anchor yourself in the truth that you are not alone, and that this moment, this awful, clarifying, holy moment, is not where your story ends, it is where it begins anew. In this unveiling, God is not simply showing you who the serpent is. He is showing you who you are, chosen, seen, protected, and despite everything, still standing, and that is a miracle in itself. There is a moment in the life of every chosen one when the curtain is pulled back, and what was whispered in shadows is dragged into the light. It is not always dramatic, nor is it always public, but it is always sacred. The divine exposure does not merely reveal the wrong that was done. It exposes the spirit behind it. It is not about scandal, it is about clarity. It is not about vengeance, it is about vision. What once crouched behind the veil of trust, camouflaged in familiarity, is now unmistakable for what it is. The serpent in the garden, the betrayer at the table. But why would God wait to reveal this? Why let the serpent whisper so long before silencing it? The answer is not cruelty, it is mercy wrapped in precision. God does not operate according to our comfort, but according to purpose. He exposes in the fullness of time. When the exposure comes, it comes not a moment too early, not a second too late. It arrives when the soul is strong enough to see clearly, and the heart is wise enough not to be shattered by what it sees. The divine exposure is not accidental, it is orchestrated. It is often preceded by months, even years, of unease, those subtle nudges in the spirit, the repeated sense that something is not as it seems. You pray, you doubt your instincts, you feel guilt for suspecting someone you love, but then, suddenly and often painfully, God confirms what you were too afraid to say aloud. He reveals. Not because he delights in your heartbreak, but because he is more interested in your freedom than your illusion of peace. The serpent that once operated in whispers, in manipulation, in subtle defiance of your well-being, is brought into view. The face is familiar, but the spirit behind it is not of God. And that is what God is showing you, not just behavior, but alignment. Exposure is not about punishment, it is about insight. It is God saying, now that you see what I see, you can walk as I lead. You might feel rage at first, or sorrow, or confusion, often all three. You will wonder how long it was happening. You will try to remember the first lie, the first twist, the first moment the serpent entered the garden. But that is not where your power lies. Your power lies in responding to revelation, not revisiting deception. God reveals to heal, not to entertain bitterness. Exposure is, in many ways, a spiritual act of war. It is heaven's declaration that the season of tolerating covert sabotage is over. It is a trumpet in the spirit realm, announcing that what was hiding in your house must now leave your destiny alone. God does not uncover serpents just to inform you. He does it to empower you. When truth is revealed, you are equipped to decide, to set boundaries, to protect your anointing. You no longer pray in confusion. You pray with understanding. It is important to recognize that not all exposure is external. Sometimes God exposes the serpent in your dreams, in your discernment, in your private moments of worship. He opens your eyes in the spirit before he allows events in the natural to confirm it. And when the moment comes, you may be tempted to pretend you didn't see what you sought to preserve relationships, to avoid disruption, to maintain the illusion of unity. But God did not reveal to be ignored. Revelation demands response. This is the testing of the chosen. Will you pretend you didn't see to keep the peace, or will you follow God's voice into a new level of clarity, even if it costs you something precious? Exposure is a divine invitation to grow, to let go, and to step into truth. The pain is real, but the purpose is greater, and what is that purpose? It is your freedom, your wholeness. Your alignment with God's will, no longer entangled with people or spirits that sought to sabotage you from the inside. Exposure ends the cycle. It breaks the spell. It opens the prison of deception so you can walk in the light, wounded perhaps, but wise, bruised but bold, aware but not embittered. In the end, exposure is not simply about seeing the serpent. It is about seeing yourself as God sees you, worthy of truth, ready for promotion, and no longer bound by the lies that once felt like love. To be chosen is not the reward many think it is. It is not the golden crown handed to the favored. It is not a shortcut to comfort, applause, or ease. No, to be chosen by God is to be marked, for fire, for pressure, for breaking. To be chosen is to be placed into the refining furnace of divine purpose, where the dross is burned away, and only what is eternal can survive. This is not punishment. It is preparation, and it is costly. Many long for the title, the chosen one. It sounds noble, it sounds beautiful, but they do not understand what it demands. The chosen do not walk the easy road. They walk the lonely one. They walk the misunderstood one. Their path winds through valleys that others are spared from, not because they are forgotten, but because they are destined for more. Great weight requires a foundation that has been tested, and so God allows the chosen to be tested not to crush them, but to qualify them. When you are chosen, affliction does not mean abandonment, it means training. The fire you face is not wild, it is not random, it is not cruel, it is controlled by the hand of God. He turns up the heat only as high as necessary, for only as long as needed. But make no mistake, the chosen will feel it, they must, for calling cannot rest on unstable ground. The heart that will carry a mantle must first be stripped of every hidden agenda, every impure motive, every secret dependency. The fire finds what is false and burns it away. This is why so many of the chosen feel forsaken while they are being formed. They cry out, "Why me?" And heaven seems silent, but silence is not absence. The teacher does not speak during the test, and the chosen must be tested. not because God does not know what is in them, but because they must come to see what has been planted in their own spirit. They must learn the sound of God's whisper in the furnace. They must learn to hold on to a promise when there is no applause, no affirmation, no evidence. If you are chosen, expect betrayal, expect isolation, expect nights of tears you cannot explain, not because you are weak, but because your strength must be forged. God will allow the serpent to sit at your table, not to destroy you, but to awaken you. He will let people you love misunderstand you, not to break your heart, but to free you from needing approval. He will allow your name to be whispered in rooms you are not in, not to discourage you, but to teach you that reputation is not your shield. God is. The burden of the chosen is heavy because the purpose is holy. You are not being prepared for mediocrity. You are being shaped for impact, and impact requires endurance. It requires the kind of depth that cannot be faked. Surface level strength shatters under pressure, but God is building something in you that can bear weight. He is shaping a vessel not for display, but for use. And useful vessels are not always pretty. They are durable. The pain is not proof that you are forgotten. It is confirmation that you are being forged. The betrayal did not come to ruin you. It came to reveal what needed to be cut away. The silence is not abandonment. It is focus. God is not distracted. He is working in the hidden places, strengthening your spine, sharpening your discernment, and sealing your soul with his signature. There will come a day when the ones who questioned your path will see the purpose unfold, but by then it will no longer matter to you, because fire changes what you care about. It burns away the need to be understood and leaves only the hunger to be obedient. The chosen are not obsessed with proving themselves. They are consumed with pleasing the one who chose them. So if you are walking through fire, remember this: you are not cursed, you are called, you are not being punished. You are being positioned. The weight you feel is not a burden. It is a mantle, and the pain is not pointless. It is prophecy. It is the sound of destiny being hammered into shape. To be chosen is to suffer, but to be chosen is also to rise. And when you do, you will not rise bitter. You will rise unbreakable. Betrayal is never accidental in the life of the chosen. It is not a meaningless wound inflicted by coincidence. When the serpent shows its face in your family, among your friends, or in the inner circle of your trust, it is not a detour. It is design. Painful, yes. Shocking, of course, but random, never. The betrayal was permitted by God not to destroy you, but to test the weight of your loyalty, not to the people around you, but to his voice within you. There is a holy tension that exists between the voice of God and the pull of the familiar. The people you've grown up with, laughed with, served with, and sacrificed for. These voices are warm. They are close, and they carry history, but they are not infallible. And sometimes, when the call of God begins to separate you, it is not the obvious enemies who object. It is those familiar faces. It is those you least expect. And when that moment comes, you must decide. Will you follow the voice of comfort or the voice of calling? The betrayal did not begin the day they turned on you. It began the moment your spirit began to shift. It began when your heart started leaning into places they couldn't follow. It began when your convictions grew sharper, your prayers grew deeper, your priorities began to change. The serpent saw it before you did. It saw that you were being awakened, and betrayal was the only way to break your dependence on voices that could no longer walk where you were going. God, in his infinite wisdom, allowed the betrayal not to punish you, but to promote you. He allowed the serpent to sit close, not to bless the serpent, but to expose your heart. Would you recognize the voice of God even when it contradicted what was familiar? Would you obey his direction even when it cost you relationships? Would you move forward when staying would feel safer? It is easy to worship when everyone claps, easy to testify when everyone agrees. But true loyalty to God is proven in silence, in confusion, in isolation. It is forged when the people you thought would fight with you suddenly become the ones you must protect yourself from, when those you thought were cheering you on are secretly hoping you fail, and God permits this, not to torment you, but to clarify your direction. Betrayal in this light is not your undoing, it is your unveiling. It strips you of illusion. It tears away the sentimentality that blinds you to spiritual reality. It shows you who is aligned with God's plan for your life, and who is merely attached to your proximity, your favor, your presence. And sometimes the people you think are for you are only for the version of you that stayed small. But when your purpose begins to expand, their support shrinks, and that's when betrayal strikes. And though it hurts, and it will hurt, you will come to see it as mercy, because God would rather you be wounded by truth than comforted by deception. He would rather expose the serpent while you are strong enough to walk away, than let it remain hidden and sabotage your destiny later. The betrayal is not just a test of your relationships, it's a test of your discernment, your courage, your obedience. God is asking, can I trust you to follow me when I lead you away from the ones you love? Can I trust you to hear me over the voices that raised you, laughed with you, prayed for you? Can I trust you to let go when everything in you wants to hold on? This is the sacred task of the chosen, to obey even when it breaks your heart. To walk away from what is familiar not in rebellion, but in reverence. To discern that the serpent was never about the person. It was about the Spirit operating through them, and to choose, again and again, the voice of the shepherd over the whispers of the crowd. So do not curse the betrayal, do not rush to erase it, let it teach you, let it break what needed to be broken, let it purify your motives, refine your vision, and reset your steps. You are not abandoned. You are being advanced. The serpent was not a mistake. It was a mirror, and now that you see clearly, you can walk freely. You were not betrayed to be broken. You were betrayed to be built, not on sand, but on the unshakable word of the God who never lies. And his voice, once obeyed over all others, will lead you exactly where you're meant to go. Pain has a voice. It speaks not in shouts, but in slow, lingering echoes through your heart, your memories, your thoughts. And when it hits hardest, it whispers the cruelest lie, you've been abandoned. But this is not the truth. It is not even close. In the life of the chosen, pain is never proof of God's absence. It is the clearest evidence of his refining presence. When God prepares a soul for a greater mantle, he does not hand it over in peace. He forges it in fire. The refining process does not feel like progress. It feels like stripping. It feels like loss, isolation, rejection, and uncertainty. But make no mistake, the pain is doing something. It is not chaos, it is construction. Every tear has a blueprint, every ache has an intention. You are not being punished, you are being purified. We do not get to carry weight in the kingdom without first learning how to carry pain without becoming bitter. Before you can be trusted with glory, you must be acquainted with groaning, because a mantle is not a trophy. It is a responsibility. It requires spiritual stamina, emotional clarity, and a heart tethered not to the approval of man, but to the voice of the Master. And pain is God's tool to untether you. If you look through the stories of Scripture, you will find a pattern. The weightiest callings are always preceded by wilderness. Joseph had dreams of elevation, but he first passed through betrayal, slavery, and prison. David was anointed to be king, yet spent years fleeing for his life in caves. Even Christ himself, before he stepped into public ministry, was led into the wilderness to be tested. Why? Because purpose without preparation becomes destruction. God sees the future you are being called into, and he knows what it will demand of you. He sees the people you will carry, the wisdom you will need, the attacks that will come, and he will not let you walk into it lightly. He loves you too much to send you into battle with soft skin and shallow roots, so he allows the breaking to build you. He allows the fire not to destroy you, but to burn away what cannot stay. There are things in you, fears, dependencies, insecurities, that cannot survive where God is taking you. So he lets life press in, not to suffocate you, but to squeeze out what is not eternal. He lets the silence stretch, not to punish you, but to teach you how to stand even when heaven seems quiet. He lets the people you leaned on walk away, not because they were evil, but because they were temporary scaffolding. And when their role in your building is done, they must fall away so the true foundation can stand on its own. This is how God works with the chosen, not gently but wisely, not comfortably but faithfully. And while others may misread your season as divine neglect, you must learn to see it for what it is, divine attention. God is not ignoring you. He is crafting you. He is watching every step. He is allowing no pain to be wasted. What you feel as abandonment is often the sacred hush of heaven as God works deeply within you, unseen but intentional. Pain changes you, yes, but if you surrender it to God, it changes you rightly. It does not have to make you hard. It does not have to make you cold. It can make you holy. It can make you humble. It can give you compassion for others, clarity for yourself, and conviction for what matters most. The mantle that God is preparing you to wear will not rest on a wounded, prideful, distracted spirit. It will rest on the one who endured pain and did not lose their praise. So if you are in a season where the suffering is heavy and the silence is loud, hear this. You are not being disqualified. You are being distinguished. You are being set apart, marked, tempered. You are in the hands of the potter, and he is shaping a vessel that can carry oil. And not just for yourself, but for others, and the oil only flows when the olive is crushed. What you feel now is not the end. It is the groaning before the glory. It is the chisel before the crown. It is the evidence that God has trusted you with a process most would never endure. So don't let the pain lie to you. Let it point you to the truth. You are chosen, and the fire proves it. There is a moment, sacred and undeniable, when the scales fall from your eyes and what was once hidden becomes clear. It's not always loud. Sometimes it comes in the stillness, an inner knowing, a divine nudge, an unmistakable revelation. The serpent you suspected, the betrayal you felt, the confusion you carried, God unmasks it all. And in that moment, if you look closely, you'll see more than just the deception. You'll see the divine strategy, because God does not reveal to embarrass. He reveals to elevate. Clarity is never random. It is preparation. Whenever God is getting ready to promote someone, the first thing he does is open their eyes. Before he lifts you, he makes sure you can see, because you cannot carry what you do not understand, and you cannot steward what you still tolerate. If the serpent was exposed in your life, it's because God is preparing you for something the serpent could not go with you into. It means your circle is being refined because your calling is about to expand. You are being positioned not just to survive, but to lead, to influence, to build. Vision is power. It gives direction when emotions fail. It silences confusion. It clears the fog left by manipulation and delay. And vision is what makes you dangerous to hell. When you see clearly, you move differently. You stop begging for approval from people who never saw you. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You stop tolerating what God has already exposed. The moment God reveals the serpent is the moment your vision is sharpened. And that sharpening is your signal that elevation is not only coming, it's already in motion. The enemy fears your clarity more than he fears your worship, because worship can still happen in confusion, but clarity births decisions. Clarity births obedience. Clarity breaks cycles. And so long as the serpent was hidden, the enemy had the advantage. He could whisper, sabotage, delay. But when God ripped the veil, he broke that advantage. What was once entangled in your emotions is now laid bare in truth, and truth is the beginning of freedom. But make no mistake, clarity will cost you. Once you see, you can't unsee. Once you know, you're responsible. The excuse of ignorance is gone. Now you must choose. Will you walk forward in obedience or backward into comfort? Will you trust God's vision for you, even if it means walking alone for a season? The exposure was not just about the serpent. It was about your next step, your next level, your next mantle. God did not open your eyes for curiosity. He did it for commission. In Scripture, every elevation was preceded by a shift in vision. Abraham was told to lift up his eyes before God showed him the land. Elisha asked for his servant's eyes to be opened before he could see the angels surrounding them. Jesus healed the blind before sending them into purpose. Why? Because destiny demands clarity. You cannot walk into what you cannot see, and you cannot see clearly when serpents are whispering nearby. So if God exposed the serpent in your life, if the hidden motive came to light, if the fake loyalty was unmasked, if the familiar voice turned against your assignment, take heart. It is not the end. It is the turning point. It is the proof that heaven has marked you for movement, and though it hurts, and yes, exposure often does, you are safer in the truth than you ever were in the illusion. The snake had to be seen because the season you're stepping into requires sight, not sentiment. There is no victory without vision, but once you have it, nothing can stop you. The lies lose their grip. The confusion fades. The power returns, and the elevation begins, not because you forced it, but because you were faithful, because you let God show you what you didn't want to see, because you didn't run from the truth, and now, because you've endured, he can trust you with more. The vision you've received is not random. It's a roadmap. Walk it with confidence. The serpent is behind you, the truth is in you, and the future is waiting. Let me know if you'd like this turned into a video script, sermon format, or published devotional. There are blessings we pray for, and there are blessings we only understand after the dust has settled. Some gifts don't come wrapped in beauty. Some come dressed as heartbreak, betrayal, and endings we never saw coming. But time, when yielded to the wisdom of God, reveals what we couldn't see in the moment, that the exposure was not just painful, it was providential. What felt like a breaking was actually a blessing. God removed what you were too loyal to let go of. There is a kind of loyalty that is noble, and then there is a kind of loyalty that is dangerous. The kind that keeps you attached to people God never called you to carry. The kind that makes you overlook red flags because history feels more powerful than obedience. The kind that makes you protect what's familiar even when it's sabotaging your future. And God, in his mercy, knows when you won't walk away, so he makes sure it walks away from you. This is the hidden blessing in exposure. You didn't lose something, you were released. God revealed what was beneath the surface not to shame you, but to free you. You didn't see it, or maybe you saw glimpses but explained them away. You called it a phase, a misunderstanding, a personality flaw. But heaven saw the full picture, and heaven intervened, because purpose was on the line, and God will never allow falsehood to travel with you into truth. When the serpent was exposed, it felt like betrayal. And in human terms it was, but spiritually it was divine surgery, the kind that cuts deep but removes infection. God took the scalpel to your life and opened up the wound, not to wound you further, but to get out what would have poisoned your future. He revealed the true heart of the one you were loyal to, not to break your heart, but to protect your soul. You may have called it friendship, covenant, even family, but God saw something different. He saw the limit. He saw the manipulation. He saw the resistance to your growth, and he said no more. What you called loyalty was really bondage. What you thought was covering was actually controlling, and had it not been exposed, it would have grown into something even more damaging. But God, in his mercy, broke it before it broke you. This is the kind of love he gives to the chosen, not always soft, but always wise, not always what you want, but always what you need. Sometimes the biggest blessing in your life is not who stayed, it's who left. Not who accepted you, but who revealed they never really walked with you to begin with. The exposure cleared the room so that your vision could return, so that your ears could hear clearly, so that your soul could finally breathe again. You didn't realize how much weight you were carrying until God lifted it through loss. And now, with time and distance, you're starting to see it for what it was, protection disguised as pain. If you had your way, you would have kept them. You would have kept explaining, kept hoping, kept bending yourself just to hold the connection together. But God saw that what you were loyal to could not carry where he was taking you. And because you wouldn't let go, he let it collapse. And as devastating as that moment was, you can now look back and say, thank you. And not just for what he gave, but for what he took. Not just for what he blessed, but for what he blocked. You are freer now. Lighter, wiser, you may still carry a scar, but that scar speaks of survival. It tells the story of a God who steps in when we don't know how to step away. A God who knows when to open our eyes, even if it means shattering our illusions. A God who removes what we idolized not to hurt us, but to heal us. So don't despise the exposure, don't curse the loss, don't mourn what God has already delivered you from. The hidden blessing was never in the connection. It was in the clarity. The day the serpent was exposed was the day your deliverance began, and now you are no longer bound. You are no longer blind. You are no longer carrying what should have been surrendered. So stand, chosen one, let the tears fall if they must, but know this, they are not in vain. The God who exposed the serpent will now empower the saint. You were not abandoned, you were protected, not by the silence of men, but by the sovereignty of heaven. You were always seen, you were always chosen, and the serpent, though familiar, was never your future. Let the truth stand, let the exposure speak, and let the chosen rise.